Hey guys, I've got a new product to show you today, well at least new to me. I've seen these bed steps for the rear of trucks. In fact, when I special ordered my truck here about 2 years ago, I opted for the bed utility group, which included this nice step on the rear installed from the factory. And it works great, as far as getting access to the rear of your bed. But as far as getting access to the side of your bed, to disengage your fifth wheel hitch and everything, I've always just used this folding, kind of portable wheel step that latches onto the wheel. And this, of course, will work on a single rear wheel truck or a dually. And, it works great as far as getting access back here. You can easily reach everything. But my problem is a lot of times I'll forget to bring this along, especially if I'm not towing. And so this side step from Amp Research really solves a number of problems for me. And so today I'm going to do a quick review on it. I'm also going to include the install of the step toward the end of the video, so definitely stick around for that. But this video is not sponsored by Amp Research. I did spend my own hard-earned money buying this step, and so these are just my personal and unbiased opinions on it. So let's start with a kind of a side-by-side comparison. We've all seen these folding wheel steps, and I don't know which brand actually invented this. It seems like on Amazon they're a dime a dozen, all sorts of different copycats. But I've had this particular one probably for about 5 years or so, and it works great, no real complaints, other than the fact that I have to remember to actually bring it along each time to use it. But like I said, it works great in the end, and it's really very economical. Then I saw this BedStep2, this side step from Amp Research. In fact, I don't know that I've ever seen one of these installed on a dually truck personally. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this video today. I've seen these on plenty of single rear wheel trucks, but I've never seen one installed on a dually. And so hopefully if you've got a dually like me, you'll find this video helpful. And I mean, really, it's all about convenience, because once you get this step installed on your truck, then it's going to be with you wherever you go. I mean, like I said a minute ago, we're all familiar with these rear steps that go on your truck that you can retract up. And so the BedStep2, it's basically a side step, same exact concept. So right off the bat, if we were to compare the BedStep2, the side step, to a more conventional portable folding wheel step here, you can see you've got a lot more tread here to put your foot on compared to the BedStep2. But for me personally, I don't find that to be an issue, because when I'm using the step, usually I've just got one foot on the step and then my other foot is up in the air, kind of save my back. And so I don't find that to be an issue when I'm using the step, even though the treads are vastly different in size. As far as stability, in terms of wobbling, I'd almost say that the BedStep2 over here wobbles less than the folding portable step. I guess mainly because this is mounted to the truck frame, and I'll show you that in the install portion here in just a minute, compared to this portable step that is wrapped around the tire. So there's a little bit of give there and flex with the tire being involved. But I mean, this BedStep2, it's very stable, even as far as it projects out from the truck. And I'm a solid 200 pounds, and it feels really stable when I'm on it. Then as far as reach goes, the BedStep2 is obviously positioned a little bit more forward in the bed compared to the portable step that's on the wheels. And so one of the questions that I had before buying it was, is the reach going to be compromised at all, especially given that your fifth wheel hitch, is directly over the axles. And so what I found, I'll just show you here. If I step up on the portable step, just like I normally would, and then reach over here, if I stretch, I can go all the way across to the other side of the jaws here. And then if I do the same thing on the BedStep2, back here, put my foot on it, and reach up, I can't quite get as far, probably I'd say 4 or 5 inches to that same point, but typically I'm only interested in reaching this lever here, or this pin, and I can comfortably do that still. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that even though it is pushed more forward, it is in the narrower section of the bed right here compared to where the fenders, flare all the way out for the dually. So this could be a little bit different if you have a single rear wheel truck, because right here you're not having to hop over this part of the fenders, and you might be able to reach even further. But for me, I actually find this almost a better position overall, because not only can I reach everything I need to right here with the fifth wheel hitch, but if I want to get something out of my toolbox over here more towards the front by my cab, then this position of the step, it's almost a better location overall. Now, as far as the grip, the actual step, it's got a really nice texture to it, you know, really high quality looking finish. In fact, it looks very similar to the OEM step that you can get from Ram with the bed utility group. It's got a really similar kind of pattern on it. I wouldn't be surprised if Ram actually sources that step from Amp Research. I'm not sure. They look really similar, at least. But really nice texture here. In fact, if it was, you know, raining outside and wet, I'd feel very secure stepping up in here. There's a lot of friction. You know, not that the portable step doesn't have that, but if I put my foot on here and apply the same amount of weight, I just feel like my tennis shoes are sliding a lot easier here on this pattern compared to over here on the bed step. I feel a lot more resistance and a lot more friction here. And you know, the last thing to point out, and I think this is really my favorite aspect about this step, is that it's always going to be with you on the truck. I mean, once you get it installed, it's going to be there. I mean, I can't think of all the countless times that you know, I've been out at Lowe's or Home Depot, you know, trying to load something in the back of the truck or get access to my toolbox back here, and I forgot to bring my portable step along. And so, you know, now that this is installed, I think for me it's going to be really used a lot more, because it's always going to be with me, and it, you know, just takes a matter of seconds literally to deploy it each time. So it seems to be really well made. You know, it feels really solid, even with all the retracting and extending. By the way, there seems to be a spring or something in there that's keeping it kind of dampened when you close it, so it's not just banging into your, you know, truck each time. But it's just got a really nice kind of like an OEM type quality to it. So definitely something that I think is going to hold up well with the life of the truck. But let me next cut to the install footage for those that are interested in what that looks like, and then I'll circle back and give you my final thoughts in the end. Here's the official instruction sheet. You can see it is the BedStep2, the side step, and then my specific part number here is the 75419-01 Alpha. So this is specifically for the Ram 3500 dually, only the 8-foot bed. It's not going to work with the mega cab and the shorter bed. So this is only for the dually, the full length 8-foot bed, and then it shows model years 2019 to 21. I suspect this would work just fine with a 22 and a 23, because I don't think Ram has changed anything on the bed or the frame. I could be mistaken there. I think this is probably just printed, you know, historically when they first came out with this, and they just haven't updated perhaps in the instructions there. And you know, basically it's my understanding that I've got it partially assembled here. It's my understanding that this bottom part of the assembly is going to be the same for every single truck, and then basically they're just giving you different brackets and mounts from here and above that are going to interface and fit with your truck. And that's why everything looks a little bit, you know, different angles and kind of just odd looking, because it's trying to match up to different points on your frame, on the bed up above, so that it you know, pairs nicely and you don't have to drill so many holes. So I've got mine partially assembled. I'll kind of go through how I did that here. The instructions are pretty detailed, but sometimes it's hard in these pictures to, you know, make everything out. So the first thing, you can use this on the driver or the passenger side. You can see that this middle piece right here, it has an angle on it, and so you just basically flip that, kind of mirror that if you want to go on the passenger. But I'm going to be putting it on the driver's side on my truck here, and so you can see it's got the angle, the fatter portion at the bottom here and the narrower on the top. And so that's exactly how I've got it here, all set up for the driver's side orientation. And then it goes through all the different assembly here. Now it's kind of hard to tell, you know, you've got two U-shaped pieces right here that come together and make almost like a box section. It's kind of hard to tell in the pictures whether they want, you know, one to overlap the other, because the one that overlaps on the bottom goes under on the top. It's hard to tell, you know, should this one go underneath or on top of the bottom? I don't really think it matters in the end, because it's going to be the same height. But as best I could tell in the pictures, it looked like this one, this is the outside of your truck here, it looked like this one goes first on the bottom, and then the inside one stacks on top of that. So that's what I ended up doing. Like I said, I don't think it would make a difference if you flip that, got it backwards. Then it's sandwiched in between these U-shaped pieces and the actual assembly is this first bracket here that has a lip, and this is going to attach kind of to where the leaf springs are hung. Now this is kind of interesting. In the picture here it shows the tab in the up position, but then if you flip later on, I noticed that over here it's in the down position. And so I kind of dry fitted it, and as best I can tell, this does need to be in the up position. So I think that last picture was maybe just a typo, or maybe from a different truck there. So this does go in the up position, and then all the way at the top you've got kind of this angled piece here, and then this bracket is going to mount to one of the existing frame points, and that goes right on top of that, kind of sandwiched in between the bolt. Sorry, I don't have the best lighting in here. Kind of sandwiched in between that bolt and the bracket there. Now you'll notice I've got everything loose because when we dry fit this and I mark holes, which by the way, some trucks are going to have to drill more holes than others. On mine, it looks like I'm only going to have to drill one hole into the kind of the underside of the bed for this particular hole right here. But it looks like everything else I'll be able to reuse. But the reason why I haven't tightened these down completely is because you want to get everything nice and snugged up and tight and lined up before you do this, because there is some play here. You'll see I can kind of move this one in and out. I can kind of rotate it a little bit, and same deal on this one. There's a little bit of play, so we don't want to tighten everything up until we know that that hole that I'm going to be drilling is marked and in the exact position there. And then otherwise down here I don't have the step on it yet, but like I said, I'm pretty sure this is all the same for every truck regardless of your model. The step is really simple. It's got 3 little star drive screws, and then you just put that on the top. So we're going to do that probably toward the end, right before I snug everything up. And there's a little bit of flex even to where you can put that as far as on the bracket, over to the left or over to the right. So it's a pretty flexible setup there. And then as far as the tools that I'm going to be using today, they give you a list here, but I'll just point them out real quick. You got 13, 15, and 18 millimeter wrenches and sockets. And then let's see, for the step, it's a T25, a star drive 25. And then they do give specs for the torque on everything. And so if you got a torque wrench, I think that'd be handy to make sure you get everything the right tightness. And then, like I said, I only have to drill one hole on my particular unit. And they talk about starting out with, I think, a quarter inch. I think it's a quarter inch, and then stepping up to a 5/16, and then the final one is a 17/32. And that is going to be for this riv nut. You can see that matches up and lines up with the hole for that riv nut there. So that's pretty much all you need with your drill bit there. I'm going to go ahead and get working on this and see how everything fits together, but it looks like a pretty straightforward install. Now I'm standing right at the driver's side door of the truck, and so of course I'm putting the step here on the driver's side. Let me hop under here and kind of show you where the orientation of the step is going to go, and see if I can point out some of the holes. So I'm just looking directly up. You can see the leaf spring hangers right here, and if we go up you can see the fuel and def lines up there. And basically we're going to be reusing this hole right here for one of the mounts. And then if we go up a little bit taller, there's going to be another bolt right here that we're going to be taking out, and this basically is the frame attaching to the bed. So we're going to pull that bolt out and then reuse that exact hole and bolt. And then the only hole that I should have to drill is going to be somewhere in this vicinity up here, kind of on the underside of the bed frame. So the metal's not too thick, going through right there. And that's pretty much it. Now let me hop down here and show you kind of where everything's going to go. So this is the mount that's going to go into that leaf spring hanger right here. This mount is going to go into the bed frame bolt that's already there. We're going to reuse it. And so it's only this hole up here that we've got to drill for. All right, so I'm going to dry fit it just to kind of see how everything fits together and make sure it's going to be lined up in here. And so I've got my one hole, my one bracket up here on the existing frame bolt, and then I'm lining up my other here on the leaf spring hanger. And that's pretty good. So I can kind of see then It looks like, yeah, I just have one hole right up here that I'm gonna need to drill. And that should be pretty straightforward. Well, like I said, there's a lot of play and flex on this one because I haven't tightened it down. And that way, you know, you can make sure that's lined up nice and tight. I've got that bolt in there right now. But this should work out pretty good. I'm feeding my fuel and def lines kind of between the bracket. That seems to be the best way. Let's see, if I went above it, I feel like I'm forcing it. Yeah, I don't like that as much. I'm gonna remove the bolt holding the frame to the bed there. And it is an 18 millimeter. I bet this one's gonna be really tight. Oh yeah. There we go. Not too bad. All right, that was a very long thread there. Before I drill my hole for the riv nut, I am dry fitting it here, so I'm using the existing holes. And I'm just gonna put these 2 bolts in there. So the one that they give you for the leaf suspension right here, and then the other one is gonna be reused. All right, just get that in there a little bit, and then I'm gonna come back, grab the same bolt that I took out of the bed frame here. I've got it dry mounted now, and I went ahead and marked where my hole is up here that I'm going to drill for that riv nut. But before I take everything down, I just wanted to show you the kind of the flex or the play with the different brackets, and that, you know, it can project in and out. You can see at the bottom because I haven't snugged this up yet. And then you can also twist it a little bit, and I'll show you that on the outside of the truck. And I'm thinking, because this is a dually, I don't necessarily want this step to be parallel to the truck frame. I almost want it to kind of angle out to follow more the contour of the fender flares there. And so I'm going to have mine twisted a little bit, and that kind of determines where you're ultimately going to drill that hole for this upper bracket right there. So I just wanted to show you, you know, you've got options depending on how you want it to look. You can choose whether you want it centered on here, off to the side a little bit, you know. So I'm going to put mine in this position because I want it to be as close to the wheels as possible, you know, when I'm reaching into the truck bed. But then as far as the angle, you can see I can go all the way to this angle, which is not quite parallel to the contour of the body line, but it's pretty close. As opposed to if I do parallel to the truck frame, it's going to be like this. So you can see, I mean, it's really your preference, but for me, I want it more twisted to be as close as parallel to this body line as possible, because that's where the step's going to be. And then I'll just fold it up so you can kind of see what that looks like. So you can see it's not perfectly parallel, but it's pretty close, as opposed to if it was more parallel, it would look like that. So really just your preference, but I'm gonna have mine more like this. All right, so I got my riv nut installed, and they said to do it to 20 foot-pounds or about 4 turns. And I seem like I had to do more like 5 or 6 turns to get to 20 foot-pounds, so might be a little different for each person. You probably noticed when I was drilling it out, I didn't have the sharpest 7/32 drill bit, so I'd almost recommend, if you don't have a real sharp one, just go ahead and buy one so you have it on hand, because I'm not real proud of the hole, how jagged it turned out. And then also, I noticed it was very close to the def and fuel lines here. So I mean, you got to be really careful to hold those out of the way as you're, you know, drilling up in there into the underside there. All right, so I'm gonna get the brackets and all the mounts up here installed permanently. I did happen to notice when I took off the bed bolt that there was some Loctite on there, and so I'm just gonna add some back on there, and might as well do all the bolts here that are mounting to the truck there. I don't know that you have to do that, the instructions don't talk about it, but I figure if you have some on hand, might as well. Doing my final tightening, so it's 20 foot-pounds on this bolt and nut, and then up here on the rib nut, 20 foot-pounds, and then 35 foot-pounds on the one that goes to the bed frame. So I got everything snugged up, and I just wanted to point out two things. First is with the fuel line up here and the def line. When I was getting everything dry fit, I thought it would fit better between the brackets right here, but as I tightened things up more, it seemed like they fit really better with less interference underneath. And so that's how I ended up doing it. But then I also noticed that it ever so slightly rubbed, really the diesel line, ever so slightly rubbed on this bracket here. So I just took some industrial adhesive Velcro, not the spiky end of the Velcro, but the more the felt side. And I had some laying around, so I just ran a strip along here and then folded it over the edge here so that it goes on top of this bracket. And that way, I don't know how much movement is on this diesel line. I mean, it seems pretty still, but you know, maybe with some bumps and stuff, it might shift. I don't want to wear down a hole eventually in that trunk that runs to the fuel tank there. So that's that. And then the other thing I wanted to point out, you probably noticed, you know, I was talking about before wanting to angle this the whole, you know, assembly so that it would be almost more parallel to the fender here with being a dually. But as I tightened things up, I mean, I really fought to try to get it angled more, and it just really ended up really wanting to be parallel to the frame here. And so I'll show you that on the outside here in just a minute, but really it just seems like the way they designed this, it's, even though it does have some play, it's really gonna, I think, end up being for most people more parallel to your frame, which is not a bad thing. Visually, I just thought it might look a little bit better if it was you know, more parallel to the fenders out there. But I gotta say, it feels really sturdy. You know, as I was snugging everything up, I thought, oh, maybe it'd be nice if they put another bracket almost to form a triangle, you know, going up to here or somewhere else. But really, once it's all snugged up, it feels really sturdy. I am not getting, you know, even side to side movement here where you would think without a support you might get a little bit. I mean, it feels really, really solid. And here's a look at the outside in the closed position. You can see it's got, I would say, about maybe a pinky or so of space between the step and this plastic trim on the bottom of the fender when it's folded up in that position. And then this is what it looks like in the folded out position. So you can see it's not quite parallel to the frame. It is at a slight angle, but it's not parallel with the fender trim, which, you know, it's fine in the end. And then when you kick it up, you can see there is a little bit peeking out there, and really, I guess that's better in the end because it gives you the ability to, you know, put your foot on there easily and kick it out. So like you just saw, there's plenty of clearance between the step and the fender trim down here when it's in the retracted position. And I mean, the step just feels really, really solid. I mean, I'm really pleased with the overall look here. And you know, in the install video, I talked a little bit about the angle of the step and how I had originally planned to make it more parallel to the dually fender that comes out here, you know, compared to the truck frame. And like I said, it ended up being almost more parallel to the truck frame in the end when I got everything all nice and tight. It's not quite, I don't know if you can tell that in the video, there's still a little bit of an angle to it. But I actually think it turned out better that way because you'll notice when it's in that retracted position, there is a little bit of the step peeking out. And if I had made it, you know, parallel to this fender trim here, there wouldn't be much to get my foot on to kick it out. Whereas here it's got just, I'd say, the perfect amount, you know, peeking out for you to get your foot on. And so, like I said earlier in the install portion, you know, AMP Research, they make this BedStep2 for really all the modern trucks from Ford, GM, Ram, and they do this for both dualies, like I've got here, and the single rear wheel trucks. So really, this review, it should apply pretty much to all the BedStep2 models. It's just going to be the install that's going to look different depending on your, you know, bed configuration. But let me answer the last question, and that is, would I buy it all over again? And you know, I certainly can't speak to the longevity, the durability, because I just installed it. But I will say it does seem to be very well made. I don't really anticipate any issues on that, even after, you know, multiple times retracting and extending hundreds of times over the life of the product. The only downside I can think of really is the price point. I haven't talked about that yet, but it does have a retail price just north of $300 at the time of the recording of this video. And you know, initially for me personally, I found that to be a little bit steep. I mean, let me know what you think. But in the end, it does solve a big problem. You know, I think it's going to be really useful for me. And so after installing it, you know, using it, I think, in my opinion, it's worth that full 300-ish price tag. You can probably get it a little cheaper with some coupon codes and such. Well, anyways, guys, I hope this information is helpful. Like I said earlier, this video is not sponsored by the manufacturer, so just trying to get some helpful information out there so you can decide if this product is right for you. On that note, I will include affiliate links in the description below, so I appreciate you using those to support the channel. And definitely let me know what you think about it. You know, I always enjoy hearing your opinions and feedback, so drop me a comment below. And as always, thanks for watching.